Fernando Mendoza's situation with the Raiders is suddenly taking a shocking turn. After arriving in Las Vegas with huge expectations, reports are now spreading that the organization may have already made a surprising decision involving the rookie quarterback, and fans are completely divided over what this could mean for the team moving forward. The Las Vegas Raiders have been bad for a long time. Not just bad, historically, generationally, depressingly bad. Since Derek Carr's departure, the Raiders cycled through 7 starting quarterbacks over 3 seasons and went 15-36 during that span. Go back further, and you realize the Raiders haven't won a playoff game since January 2003, the 2002 AFC Championship game. That's over 2 decades of wandering through the desert, in the city of Las Vegas, looking for someone, anyone, to take the reins of this franchise. The 2025 season was supposed to offer a sliver of hope. The Raiders hired Pete Carroll, a coach who had won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. They traded for Carroll's old quarterback in Seattle, 35-year-old Geno Smith. They brought in Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator. On paper, it was a step forward. On the field, it was a disaster. Las Vegas finished with a 3-14 record, their worst winning percentage since 2006. The Raider offense scored just 241 points on the season, which was the worst in the NFL. Geno Smith had a terrible year, throwing for 3,025 yards and 19 touchdowns, but also an NFL-leading 17 interceptions. The team went on a 10-game losing streak. Chip Kelly was fired mid-season. Las Vegas was limited to 75 total yards against the Philadelphia Eagles, their fewest since 1961. It was, by every measurable standard, a catastrophe. Pete Carroll was fired after just 1 season, and the only consolation prize from the wreckage was the #1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. The Raiders had a 4-year aggregate record of 21-47 from 2022 to 2025, the worst 4-year stretch for the franchise since moving to Vegas. But when you hit rock bottom, sometimes that's exactly where you find your foundation. Because while the Raiders were crumbling, a kid in Bloomington, Indiana, was doing something no one expected. His name was Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza was not supposed to be here. Not in the NFL conversation. Not at Indiana. Not anywhere close to a Heisman Trophy. Fernando Gabriel Mendoza V was born on October 1st, 2003, in Boston, Massachusetts, and grew up in Miami, Florida. He attended Christopher Columbus High School, where he played both football and tennis. As a quarterback, he completed 133 of his 200 World on Fire. He was rated as high as a 3-star recruit, orally committed to the University of California, Berkeley, instead signed with UCLA. Cal suddenly had a scholarship opening. Bill Musgrave, Cal's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at the time, visited Mendoza at home in Miami. After most prospects had already signed, Mendoza flew to Berkeley, liked what he saw, and flipped his commitment. That one scholarship offer from Cal, the single, solitary FBS Power 5 offer Mendoza received from over 130 eligible programs, changed everything. Mendoza redshirted in 2022. He waited his turn. He earned his first career start in Week 6 of the 2023 season against Oregon State, completing 21 of 32 passes for 207 yards and 2 touchdowns. The coaching staff handed him the keys and never took them back. In 8 starts as a redshirt freshman, he completed 63% of his passes for 1,708 yards and 14 touchdowns. In 2024, Mendoza won the starting job outright. He was the 3rd leading passer in the ACC, with 3,004 passing yards and accounted for 18 total touchdowns. The numbers were solid, but the team around him crumbled. Cal started 3-0, including a road win over Auburn, but then lost 4 consecutive games by a combined 9 points. A devastating collapse against Miami, where the Bears blew a 35-10 lead. Close loss after close loss. Those 4 back-to-back-to-back-to-back losses, that's 3-0 to 3-4. That was back-breaking, Mendoza said. And through all this turbulence, Mendoza played under 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years at Cal. He knew he had more to give. He knew he needed something different. On December 11, 2024, Mendoza announced he would be entering the NCAA transfer portal. 12 days later, he announced his decision to transfer to Indiana University, Bloomington. Why Indiana? Mendoza wanted an offensive-minded coaching staff. He wanted to become, in his own words, the best Fernando Mendoza that I could be. He chose Indiana over Georgia and Missouri, drawn to head coach Curt Cignetti, who had just led the Hoosiers to their first ever college football playoff appearance. He also had a built-in connection. His younger brother, Alberto, was already a redshirt freshman quarterback at Indiana. What happened next was one of the most breathtaking seasons in college football history. Mendoza led Indiana to a perfect 16-0 record and the first national championship in program history, completing 72.0% of his passes for 3,535 yards, 41 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions. He won the Heisman Trophy. He was named a consensus first-team AP All-American, the Walter Camp Award winner, the Davey O'Brien Award winner, and the Maxwell Award winner. He was the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. He was the National Championship Offensive MVP after Indiana defeated the Miami Hurricanes 27-21 in the title game. The kid who had one Power 5 offer, the kid who was headed to Yale, the kid who was rated 216th in his own state. He was now the consensus #1 pick in the NFL draft. So here's where things get interesting. The Raiders had the first overall pick. They had watched their franchise fall apart for years, and everyone, scouts, analysts, fans, expected them to take Fernando Mendoza and hand him the starting job immediately. After all, why would you draft a Heisman Trophy-winning national championship quarterback first overall just to sit him on the bench? But the Raiders had other plans. Weeks before the draft, Las Vegas signed veteran Pro Bowl quarterback Kirk Cousins, a 37-year-old, 4-time Pro Bowler with 167 career starts, to a deal that raised eyebrows across the league. On paper, Kirk Cousins has a 5-year, $172 million deal. But in reality, only $20 million of that is guaranteed for 2026. The structure tells you everything. Cousins is here for now, not for the future. Still, $20 million is not clipboard money. One reporter wrote that Las Vegas isn't paying Cousins that guaranteed salary to hold a clipboard and be a mentor. All indications are that he'll be the Raiders starter week 1 and beyond. The reasoning from inside the building was clear. Head coach Klint Kubiak, himself a first-year hire after Carroll's firing, said at the NFL's annual league meeting that his perfect scenario would be for Mendoza to start out his NFL career learning behind a veteran. "I think ideally you don't want him to start from day one," Kubiak told reporters. "You'd love for him to be able to learn behind somebody. That's in a perfect world." Kubiak's relationship with Cousins goes back years. He spent 2 seasons as quarterback's coach and 1 as offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, while Cousins was playing there from 2019 to 2021. That familiarity, that trust, was a central pillar of this entire plan. And then there was the Tom Brady factor. Brady, who became a minority owner of the Raiders, had an outsized influence on this decision. Brady once said that he thinks it's a tragedy that teams force quarterbacks into lineups as rookies. He believes in the old-school approach: sit, watch, learn, absorb, and then play when the moment is right. It was Brady who personally called Cousins to convince him to sign with Las Vegas. I had a lot of conversations with people in the Raiders organization, and one of those was with Tom. Cousins said the Raiders were constructing something deliberate. They were building a protective cocoon around Mendoza, wrapping the franchise's future quarterback in layers of veteran leadership, coaching familiarity, and patience. An anonymous NFL executive told The Athletic, "All indications are they are going to make Mendoza sit." Another executive added a more sobering assessment. "I think Mendoza will thrive there with Klint Kubiak, but it will take 2 or 3 years. They just don't have a good enough team." That last line is the quiet truth no one in the Raiders building wants to say out loud. The Raiders do have some talented skill position players, tight end Brock Bowers and running back Ashton Jeanty, but their wide receiver room still leaves something to be desired, and it remains to be seen how their offensive line will gel. The Raiders' top 2 receivers are Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker, not household names. The roster is incomplete. Throwing Mendoza into this environment right now would be like handing a kid a race car with no brakes. Even Kirk Cousins himself understands the dynamic. "I honestly don't want to start unless I'm the best option, and I told Klint that," Cousins told reporters at his introductory press conference. "The best players should play. As long as that's the case, I have no qualms about however it plays out." Cousins has been in this position before. In Atlanta, he got benched in favor of Michael Penix Jr. in 2024, before eventually starting again after Penix tore his ACL. He knows what it means to be the bridge. Of course, not everyone agrees that benching Mendoza is the right move. And not everyone agrees that Mendoza is even the right pick. An anonymous ACC coach told ESPN that he didn't believe Mendoza had the NFL traits. The coach who competed against Mendoza when he played for Cal went further. "He's a good decision maker, but I don't think he's got the NFL traits. They're all back shoulder throws. That's not working in the NFL. His receivers made plays to make him look better than he is. Those are hard words for a #1 overall pick. Some evaluators even believe that Oregon's Dante Moore or Texas Tech's Brendan Sorsby might have been selected ahead of Mendoza, had they declared for the 2026 draft. The whispers were persistent. This was a weak quarterback class, and Mendoza went #1 by default, not by dominance. But the Raiders saw something different. They spent months on this evaluation. Over 7 months, those with owner Mark Davis and GM John Spytek flew commercial and private, rented cars in the South and the Midwest, stayed in big cities and small towns, and poured endless hours into studying the 2026 draft's quarterbacks. This wasn't a casual decision. The Raiders' assistant GM Brian Stark had already broken down Mendoza's film from his 2 years as Cal's starter and written a report the previous spring, not knowing what was to come. "I thought he had a chance to be a really good prospect," Stark recalled. And for many in the Raiders front office, it was pro day where they were fully sold on Mendoza. And it wasn't even the throws that convinced them. It was how he led the pro day. He did it for his teammates, not even for himself. He let his teammates know what he wanted them to run so they could show off their skills and prove to the scouts it was all about the team. That leadership, that selflessness, was the final stamp of approval. "We were staring at a player on our board that was way above everybody else," Spytek said. And this wasn't a Friday night decision or a week of the draft decision either. Teams calling Spytek hoping to trade for the top spot were met with a blunt answer: no. On draft night, when the commissioner announced the Raiders were on the clock, Spytek and the War Room had one message: call up Fernando. He's the guy. Now, with Mendoza in the building, the learning curve is steep, but the signs are encouraging. At his first rookie minicamp practice, Mendoza took more under-center snaps than he did in his entire season at Indiana. A telling detail about how different the pro game will be for a quarterback who ran almost exclusively from shotgun in college. A key element in his development is getting snaps under center, after taking the vast majority from shotgun in 3 college seasons. It's an adjustment most rookie quarterbacks face, but it underscores why the Raiders want to give him time. Former 10-year NFL quarterback Luke McCown spotted something in Mendoza's rookie minicamp clips that excited him. "Watch the right knee," McCown tweeted. "This guy has excellent rotation and torque. The small details, hip rotation, torque through the throwing motion, the way his right knee turns, suggest he has the power and the zip to be an elite thrower in the NFL." And Mendoza himself, he isn't lobbying for the starting job. He isn't complaining about sitting behind Cousins. "I haven't proved anything," Mendoza said during his introductory press conference. "My college career was very blessed, and it was great, very significant career. However, in the NFL, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole again." That mentality, that humility, is exactly what the Raiders were banking on. So here we are. The Raiders drafted Fernando Mendoza first overall and decided to bench him. The question that started this conversation, why would they do this, has layers to it. Mendoza becomes the 5th Heisman Trophy winner to be drafted by the Raiders organization, joining Marcus Allen, Bo Jackson, Tim Brown, and Charles Woodson. The lineage is unquestionable, and all 3 Hall of Famers who came before him, Brown, Allen, and Woodson, have offered their advice to the young quarterback. Tim Brown's message was particularly direct. Don't try and be Tom Brady. Don't try and be Patrick Mahomes. Just be who you are. The Brady comparison is unavoidable. Mendoza wears number 15, chosen to honor Raiders legend and coach Tom Flores, and he now plays for a franchise where Tom Brady is a minority owner. Mendoza considers Brady to be his idol and has been open about that admiration. At the scouting combine, he said, "Tom Brady, I believe, is the greatest quarterback of all time by a wide margin, and to be able to have the opportunity to be mentored by him, it would mean so much." But the irony of the Brady dynamic is this: the same man Mendoza idolizes is the one most responsible for keeping him off the field. Brady's philosophy on quarterback development, patience above all else, is the guiding doctrine of this entire plan. The Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes comparison has been mentioned more than once. Cousins and Mendoza are very similar in their personalities and how they prepare to play. Cousins is the perfect mentor for Mendoza to have early success in his career. In Kansas City, the Chiefs sat Mahomes behind Smith for nearly an entire season. Mahomes learned how to be a professional, how to study film at the NFL level, how to carry himself. When he finally stepped onto the field, he won MVP and then a Super Bowl. The Raiders are hoping for the same trajectory. Another consideration is the cautionary tale of the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young. the #1 overall pick from 2023, who was thrust into an incomplete roster, struggled mightily, was benched, and had his confidence damaged. The Raiders saw that unfold in real time and decided they would not repeat the same mistake. The truth is that the Raiders' decision to bench Mendoza is not about Mendoza, it is about the Raiders. They just don't have a good enough team, not yet. The offensive line is a question mark. The wide receiver room is thin. The defense, while anchored by Max Crosby, has its own issues. Throwing a 22-year-old into that situation, even a 22-year-old who went 16-0 and won the Heisman, could do more harm than good. Allowing him to sit preserves his development and health and gives him another perspective on what it means to be an NFL quarterback. But there's a flip side. Only 2 quarterbacks who were #1 overall picks, John Elway and Andrew Luck, have appeared in a playoff game as a rookie. The historical odds are stacked against immediate success regardless. So whether Mendoza starts week 1 or week 10 or not at all in 2026, the verdict on his career won't be written this year. What the Raiders have done is bet on process over impatience. They've bet on the idea that a man who was headed to Yale before a last-minute scholarship offer saved his football dream, who played under 3 different offensive coordinators at Cal and never broke, who transferred to Indiana and turned a program upside down in a single season. That man has the patience, the work ethic, and the mental makeup to sit behind Kirk Cousins, absorb everything he can, and emerge as the franchise quarterback they've been searching for since the day Rich Gannon left. Just a great person, Spytek said of Mendoza on draft night. He's about the right things. It's about his team. It's about winning. The Raiders believe Fernando Mendoza is that guy. They just believe he'll be that guy on their timeline, not anyone else's. And in a league that chews up young quarterbacks and spits them out, that kind of discipline might just be the most shocking decision of all.